You know, it can be really easy to get caught up in writing big, epic cues, whether it's giant trailers or big, epic sports hip hop. And if you get the placements, it's really, really sexy and it feels impressive. It looks good on a resume and a reel. But if I'm being honest, the cues that often get me the most love and have over the years are quirky, plucky cues. Yep, I'm talking dramedy. And in today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down one of my most placed cues called There's a Mouse in the Hizzle, and I'm going to be showing you how I approach writing dramedy. So we're going to talk sound palette, the use of groove and percussion, form, and why it is that editors keep coming back to this style over and over again. So whether you've never tried dramedy before, or maybe you're looking to sharpen your approach, you definitely want to stick around because dramedy cues are everywhere and they are not going away anytime soon. What is happening, everybody? This is Dave Kropf, and welcome back to another episode of the 52 Cues podcast, where each week we are talking all things production and library music. So whether you've had a ton of placements already, or maybe you're just production music curious, either way, I promise you, you are in the right place. Today's episode is made possible thanks to the support of our member subscribers of 52 Cues, who are composers just like you, working to write better cues and find success in the sync music industry. And 52 Cues is there to help make that happen through live streams, workshops, Zoom feedback sessions, pitching to real music libraries, and a ton more. So if you're wondering about joining, then you can head over to 52cues.com or stick around because I'm going to be talking more about that a little bit later in today's episode. Speaking of today's episode, we're going to be shining a light on one of my most successful cues, and I'm going to be using it to kind of unpack how I approach writing dramedy cues. Plus, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on an electro funk cue written by 52 Cues neighbor member Corey Dee. But first, what have I been up to? What have I been working on lately? Well, you might have noticed that there was no episode last week, and that is because 2 weeks ago, I had eye surgery. And that was a lot of fun. No, it wasn't. It was pretty brutal, and I was promised that I wouldn't be able to see during the surgery, but about halfway through I could. And so that was a whole freak out and some trauma that I'm going to have to unpack with a therapist at some point. But I am on the mend. Thank you, everybody in the community and everybody for all of the well wishes and the get well soon sentiments. But last week, when I sat down to record the episode, I recorded like a screen test because even though we do the episode every single week and we try to keep one happening each week, my eye looked pretty brutal. Just there's no other way to say it. My eye looked pretty gross, and it's still recovering. So if you're looking and like, what's up with his eye? Yes, I had eye surgery, and you know what? YouTube video is forever. So I didn't want a permanent video in my YouTube account, my history that had my gnarly looking eye. Should I have gotten a patch? Maybe, but I am back, and each week it gets better. Had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and she was thrilled with how it's progressing. Eventually, I'm going to have to do my left eye, but that is for future Dave, it's summertime Dave to take care of. But it's really good to be back with you. Since we last met, I wrapped up the project I was working on cues for a golf documentary for the Masters tournament, and shipped all of that off. And the producer loved it, but they came back to the publisher with some requests. And some of the requests were they wanted kind of some more drone stuff, and there's going to be a feature story or some segments on the firefighters of Los Angeles and their journey and their heroic story. So they asked, can you write some cues in that nature, kind of feel good, sentimental, thought-provoking, yet uplifting type of a cue. And so what we're going to take a listen to right now is called In the Line of Duty, and not only has piano and strings, but also a pad in the brand new Serum 2 that I made myself. So here is In the Line of Duty. So that was In the Line of Duty. Really enjoyed working on that. It's such a departure. And even though I'm not a pianist, you know, I like pretending to be one and multiple takes and slowing things down and all that. Anyway, for you family and friend subscribers, be sure to be on the lookout for a cue breakdown of that cue where I'm going to be talking about the sound choices I use, some of the music theory ideas and the use of inversions and that kind of thing, as well as that brand new Serum 2 patch that I created from scratch. So for today, I want to talk Dramedy cues. And I have found out that, like I said in the intro, while the big sports cues look great, they look great in a reel, and they are really, really exciting to get a placement, like on the Final Four or the Super Bowl coverage or whatever. That's really, really sexy. But the real unsung heroes of my catalog are Dramedy cues. I've gotten a ton of placements with Dramedy cues, and I have a handful of cues that kind of keep coming back over and over. And going back from when I started my tune set back in 2023, I've now been rolling it for 2 years. Let's see, Trick or Beats, this is a Dramedy cue. Funky Chonkers, that's a Dramedy cue. Here is There's a Mouse in the Hizzle on Love and Marriage DC. The Flipping El Musas. Let's see, I'm just going to kind of randomly scroll and see. Yep, there it is again, The Flipping El Musas. Here it is on HGTV Lux for Less. Here is the same cue on Chopped. Here is the same cue, again on Chopped, same cue on Tough Love with Hilary Farr on HGTV, more Chopped. Here is the same cue showing up in a German TV show here.
Macht sich Christian bereits Gedanken über deren Innenleben? Denn die Boote sollen in Monaco nicht einfach...
Yep, that's that same cue. Here's Mouse and the Hizzle on Chopped. By the way, here's what it sounds like on Chopped.
So I think the cherries themselves in the root beer, that jelly.
All right, so there's the cue. Keep going. Let's go to the next page here, because now we're still in 2023. Let's see, 2024, more Chopped. Let's see what this placement sounds like.
Sure. Mom and Dad, if you're up there, I did something great.
Yep, more Chopped. My point is that this cue has shown up across multiple types of shows, multiple times, and is just one of several dramedy cues that have gotten a ton of love. And so what I wanted to do today is I wanted to unpack There's a Mouse in the Hizzle. I wanted to show it to you and show you how I approach dramedy cues. Now, before we get started, I want to say that I did do a full hour-long workshop specifically on dramedy cues where we looked at a ton of different examples and a lot more different placements. And for you family and friends subscribers, that was done in December. And so that archive is already there. You can go check that out right now for you family and friends subscribers. But what I'm doing today is kind of a distilled version of that. We're not going to be redoing the entire full workshop. So let's take a moment. Let's listen to There's a Mouse in the Hizzle, and then we'll start unpacking things. So that was There's a Mouse in the Hizzle. We're about to unpack that and dive deeper into it. But before we do, I want to make sure that we all understand kind of what we're talking about here. What is dramedy? Well, it's a mashup of the word drama and comedy. And really, it's used in scenes that have very, very light tension, playfulness, irony, mischief, kind of a playful suspense. Characters are comedically trying to solve a problem or fumbling around or nobody's in danger here. There's no real sense of tension. It's more comedic. And I have found that you can put dramedy on the major spectrum or the minor spectrum, meaning, major key versus minor key. And it sits right in the middle. And if you write dramedy in a minor key, this is just my take, then you are on the tension spectrum. If you write dramedy in a major key, then you're more on the comedic spectrum. But these kind of cues get used a ton, just like I showed you on my TuneSat, cooking shows, lifestyle shows, family shows, reality shows, unscripted TV, it gets used a ton. And there's a Mouse in the Hizzle has gotten a ton of love. In fact, it even showed up, I was looking at TuneSat, it showed up last Monday on an episode of, Renovation Aloha on HGTV. So as I'm recording this, March 17th was last Monday. And now what's interesting is this cue was actually completed in 2020, specifically March 26th, 2020. So as of today, this cue is 5 years old, and it is still getting placements. So let's first start with what I think is the most important aspect of dramedy, which is the sound palette. We're talking, and as much as maybe music supervisors don't want to hear about it, we're talking pizzicato strings. Now these are the Symphobia strings, but I actually layered these with staccato strings. And using the stock Logic staccato strings, kind of merge those together, and you get this sound. But really, any kind of plucky type sound, any quirky, unique sound could work. I've had marimbas, I've used glockenspiel, I've even used jaw harp on some of my dramedy cues, melodica to kind of imitate the feeling of an accordion. The quirkier, the better. And I've layered in some electric piano in on this as well. And this is Keyscape's electric piano. And here it is kind of on its own. And harmonically speaking, it's very, very simple. I'm in essentially D minor, and I am doing the thing where you outline the D minor chord and take the fifth, move it up, and then move it up again. So we have a D, a D6, and then or a D sharp 5 or D augmented, minor augmented, and then we have the D6 chord. And that's essentially the harmonic basis for this whole thing. Now, if we are looking a little bit further, get into some pitched instruments, we get into a bass, and I love this bass. This is the Motown bass. It's stock Logic. If you have Logic and you're looking for it, you have to go into Legacy, Logic, bass, and then electric bass, and then Motown bass. There it is right there. And one of the reasons I really, really like it is it has these scoops and other articulations, which I think are super, super helpful, and they sound amazing. You get that nice look. And if we look at the MIDI, you can actually see the scoops. Looking at the notation, it's just rocking that bass line. You know, kind of like from a funk record where you would just camp out on one chord and let chords kind of change around on top of it. So that is the pitched sounds in the first half of the cue, but I also love incorporating groove elements. This is the drummer in me. I put grooves on everything. It's my superpower. That's the way I think of it. And so I am using 2 battery layers here because 5 years ago when I was writing this, I was really, really hot and heavy into battery. And so this is a preset called the Lucky Fool Kit. So that's the top layer of battery. The second has more of a kind of a sampled kind of a sound, and it's the Yalutso Bi Kit. Sounds a little bit more sample, so you blend those together. with the bass. So I love, love, love using grooves, and I love using percussion. I do have a suspended cymbal that I recorded. Yep, just a suspended cymbal. And then we have a shaker, which is actually, it is a brush on an envelope. Just because it's unique. Could I have grabbed an egg and done that? Yeah, I suppose I could have done that, but isn't an envelope quirkier? You can also take two envelopes, put them together. You could take a Tic Tac bottle and fill it with kosher salt to get the same kind of sound, right? It's just about finding unique little quirky things. And then I added some other clicks and claps, I should say. So put all of these percussion elements together and you get something like this. Give it a little bounce with the bass. And oh man, that pocket really settles in. So from the top, yeah, it just sounds, sounds so good. It just grooves hard. Now, we're going to talk form and all of that here in just a minute, but I want to move forward just a little bit. And, we actually have some other percussion here. Some extra snare bits. Just layering. All right. And so then we introduce another instrument, and it's actually a couple of instruments. And the first is one of my absolute favorite things to do, which is to play ukulele, but use a Strat technique. And this is one of the ukuleles hanging in the back that I've just recorded a left pass and a right pass and just kind of playing it like you would a funky Strat pattern. And then I did layer some actual Strat on top of it. So together, and I just find that works so well. And you know, on the ukulele, it's like a one finger wonder. You just kind of mash it down and then you could kind of scoop it up and down, because in an open voicing, the ukulele essentially is a 6-chord. And so it works really, really well. This kind of dominant extension to the 4-chord. And it's kind of like a shout chorus type of a vibe. I did add some new drums here in the B section, more battery. This is the Adobe kit. And I'm really thinking kind of like a DJ here, like where I'm layering loops and drum patterns on top of each other. And of course the bass. Bring in the shaker. Switch up the electric piano so it's a little bit more the electric piano on its own. It's the same pattern. It's that D to D augmented to D6. Right? It's the same pattern. I am nothing if not consistently repetitive. And then I added in just some more little quirky sounds. And this is me just breathing. Maybe I'd been listening to too much Baha Men or something at the time. So put this all together, throw in a little reverse ukulele and reverse guitar, which is literally taking the final chord and then reversing it, and you get this build. So this would be into the breakdown section, but it's more kind of like a shout chorus vibe. And then layer more backbeats on top of it. So those are all of the sound palettes, or those are all the sound choices that I use from my sound palettes. It's not very dense. I mean, how many tracks? 18 tracks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and yeah, 18 total tracks, ton of drum tracks, 9 different drum layers, and 2 of those are stereo spread, or, you know, right and left. A couple of ukulele tracks, a couple of pizzicato things, some electric piano and bass. Very, very simple. Very simple. Because when we're writing dramedy cues, we want to leave a ton of room for editing. We want to leave a ton of room for dialogue on top. And I've seen both sections of this cue get used. I've seen the opening, I've seen the B section get used, and you just never know. But sparse also means that you have to do more with your arranging. Okay, because you don't have just a bunch of layers that you could just keep adding. Instead, you have to figure out, what can I do if I don't have a ton of tracks to add or a ton of instrumental layers to add? How can I add a sense of development? And this is when I do things like, I call it density layering. So if we look at our string layers here at the top, the main melody, it's going to go through twice, because in my mind, I'm thinking every 4 bars, I need to increase the energy, you know, always be heightening. Every 4 bars, I am looking to heighten the energy. And I can heighten my energy one of 2 ways. I can either add new sounds, kind of like I did here by adding the electric piano. Let's take it back to the top again. Notice the drums are very sparse, just kick and snare, and not even the full kick pattern. Now 4 bars later, add the electric piano. Start hinting at the melody. And now what do? We add the bass, but to create a sense of emotional heightening in the melody, I add octaves in my melody. So before, my melody was, and now my melody is, and it's literally grabbing the regions and putting them up the octave. And then what do? You add more layers. Here we added the shakers. And in the next phrase, what can I do? I can add new layers like I did here. I added the clicks and claps, added some more backbeats, and I added a 3rd octave into my strings. So again, the main melody is, and then octaves, and then 3 octaves, or 2 octaves above the melody. And it adds a sense of heightening emotion without needing to just keep dumping layer upon layer upon layer. And this applies beyond just dramedy cues. This is just production music in general, because we have to be careful. You know, we can't shift out our harmonic language. We can't shift out of our instrumentation. We can't shift out of our rhythmic language, which are the 3 levers that we pull to create a sense of mood and emotion. And if we start changing up too much, then we run the risk of kind of pulling out of the groove that our emotion was sitting in. And so I have found that, yes, we can add new layers, but adding density into the layers that we already have creates that sense of musical development, of emotional heightening without shifting out of that emotional pocket. Now going into our B section, this is go into the breakdown. It's not really a breakdown. Again, it's more like a shout chorus. The first thing I'm going to do is kill the melody, give our ears a break. bring the harmony back. This time, the electric piano, instead of just playing whole notes like we were finding in the A section here, and now it's much more rhythmic. And that kind of lends to the shout chorus vibe of this. Then I need another layer of heightening. Let's add more backbeats. And now we're about to return to our A section, because this is a very simple A, B, A form. But one of the things that I love to do is A, B, and then A plus B. And because the B section is cooking along in the same harmonic language as the A section, the only thing I've really done is we brought in some new drum layers, and we brought in this new ukulele strat layer. Now when I mash them together, then it heightens the energy, but it sounds familiar. It's not like I'm introducing like a new character in the third act of a story. All right? So we're gonna chill out and now bring everything together. We got 3 octaves up here in the pizzicato strings and into a final button. Now I know for all of you keeping score at home, that button is not on the downbeat. What's the deal with that? Well, this leads me to one of the main tenets that I try to embrace in dramedy, and that is dramedy, in the name of quirkiness, gets to break some of the rules. They get to break the rules that, my 10 commandments that I did, that episode, it breaks those rules. Rules such as stay in one key. Well, I mean, the sharp 5 isn't diatonic to the key of D minor. So chromaticism you can get away with. You can get away with angular melodies. You can get away with weird like phrasing. You can get away with weird instruments, and you can even get away with not ending on the downbeat in the name of quirkiness. So speaking of melodies, I approach my melodic writing for dramedy cues very much the same way I approach writing hip-hop hooks. And that is very short, very motivic, usually within a 4-bar chunk, unless I add like a variation, which is what I have done here. We've got our main melody. It's basically outlining a D minor sound. Yep, D minor with a chromatic walk down. Yep, there's little chromaticisms that we can get away with. And then the second time through, add a little variation. Boom, 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 kind of outlining a D minor 7 sound. And that's the whole hook, which you could easily just put some hip hop beats to this. Take away the little funky bass line and the electric piano, maybe switch that to a bell tone type of a sound. And you can have something that works also as a hip hop cue. But regardless, you want your melodic motifs to be short. You want them to be catchy. You don't want them to be super long, 4 bars. And if you're doing 8 bars, they need to be relatively repetitive, because it's this repetition that helps editors, gives them options to either put in an edit point, slice some things apart, add ideas for a punchline or something like that if they are working in the edit and within the scene. And you can kind of think of this like musical punctuation. And I think that really works well. So you want to make room for the dialogue. So leaving space in the melody itself. Now this cue specifically doesn't have any edit points, but that's not to say that I've written Dramedy cues that don't, because I put edit points in so many of my cues. So I find that the ABA form works really, really well, especially A, B, and then A plus B. Another form you could try is an A form. This is where you have your original melody and then you build upon that. So one of the cues that I want to play for you, this is called Light as a Feta. And this was a cue that was written for an album of European cafe dramedy. And this has this A plus A. All right, so we're wrapping up the first A. And now repeat. Add octaves above it. Wood blocks. This is a very silly cue. We're building, little interlude, little intro, and now here's A again. All right, so that was Light as a Feta, and like I said, use predictable phrasing every 4 bars. You know, we are looking to build up energy into the cue. It's predictable. It makes your editor's job a ton easier because if it's easy to edit to and you're reducing the friction, then they're going to keep using this cue over and over. And I think that's what's going on with my dramedy stuff. I don't overthink it. It's not giant, long, sprawling melodies. They're very straightforward. They're very simple. They're not super dense mixes with all of these layers. It's just, I don't know, it fits into the background really, really nicely. So what are the main takeaways? I find that dramedy cues, first of all, they're a lot of fun to write. I love kind of breaking the rules, but the main takeaways are that dramedy cues are super versatile, they are very valuable to editors, and they're just a lot of fun to write. It's a lot of fun experimenting and finding new ways to kind of saying the same thing over. Now, I have heard editors or music supervisors or libraries kind of eschew away from the idea of pizzicato strings. And so here's a pro tip. If you have an editor that says no pizzicato strings, my recommendation would be to write the exact same way, and you can even write it with pizzicato strings, but substitute marimba for the same part. That will work really, really well. But I have found that if you can find new ways to subsidize the pizzicato sound so it doesn't just have pizz on its own, either by layering marimba or electric piano, or in this case, staccato and pizzicato strings on top of it. Either way, at the end of the day, don't overcomplicate it. You want to keep it light. You want to keep it quirky. And, if you're looking at all of this and you're like, man, I don't have keyscape or I don't have symphobia, use your stock sounds. Pizzicato, regardless of whatever library you have, pizzicato strings usually always sound amazing. Stock Logic strings, short strings sound great because pizzicato strings don't have those MIDI tells like legato transitions and things, which will make MIDI strings sound fake. Pizzicatos, you don't have to worry about those. And so I have found a lot of love with these. I love writing Dramedy. I had a phone call from a new library that I've started working with just this week, and they want more. They want Dramedy cues with little hip hop beats. And so, yeah. I did a modern comedy album the last couple of months, but pulling back into Dramedy, and it just keeps getting love across all types of shows, all types of placements. Sprinkle in a few little hip hop beats to kind of modernize it a little bit and to kind of hip it up a little bit, for lack of a better term. And I have found great success with that. So as a reminder for you friends and family folks, you can watch the full workshop I recently did on writing Dramedy cues. And we even talk about titles, and we look at a ton of placements and listen to many, many more examples. And I give a playlist of the playlist we were just listening to earlier. For you friends and family folks, you can check out that workshop and get that placement. But what about you? Have you had luck writing Dramedy cues? Do you like writing Dramedy cues, or are you just kind of over it? If you're a music library or supervisor, what do you think about Dramedy cues? I would love to hear from you. Please let me know in the comments below. I do read all of those, and I appreciate you leaving your thoughts. So we are going to take a really quick break, but when we return, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on a brand new modern electro funk cue called Fresh Air, written by 52Q's neighbor, Corey Dee. We'll be right back. Every week I talk about how this episode and the podcast and the community, the channel, would not be possible without the amazing support of our family, friends, and neighbors, subscribers of 52Qs, who do pay their actual real-life money to keep all of this going. And in addition to being thriving members of the community, as well as supporting me and Shannon and everything that we're doing here, they also receive extra perks like live streams, workshops, Zoom feedback sessions, hundreds and hundreds of hours of video archives, weekly cue breakdowns, production music almanac, living ebook, and the opportunities to submit to real music libraries. Now, it's free to join 52Qs. You can just go to 52qs.com and sign up, be a member of the community. We would love to have you. It will always be free to join the community. But if you've been watching, or if maybe this is your first time, but if you're wondering, is there a way to kind of level up my production music skills in the industry, meeting like-minded, super friendly, very generous composers? Then why don't you think about subscribing? Memberships start at around $4 a month, and we would love to have you. Again, that's 52qs.com. That was Fresh Air from Corey Dee. Corey, thank you so much for sending this along. And he said, this is a possible track from my modern electro funk pop album focused more on using fewer elements and less instrumentation while still having a full feel. Man, I think you nailed it. Love the vibe of this. The little that's really, really cool element. It reminds me of like a talking drum. You know, I'm thinking like, you know, Wakanda Forever, that kind of thing. I think this is great. It's very kind of intro-y. Are we good? Still good? But I think it takes way too long to actually get to the pocket. Yeah, because we had kind of a little intro here, and now we're spending another, 10 to 15 seconds on intro, and now we're spending even more time in kind of intro territory. Like I'm waiting, like I'm waiting for the beat. It's all great. And so it's 40 seconds into the cue before we actually settle into the pocket, which is fantastic. So that's not to say that you have to move this whole section up earlier, but I think if we can sprinkle in some backbeats, clap, 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 maybe claps or something, it just feels a little intro-y. Now, I wonder, maybe, I don't know. No, I'm sorry for being so wishy-washy here, but we hit the groove for like 8 bars, and then we immediately go away from it again. Yeah, those little talking drums, they also remind me of the tom fills at the beginning of Miami Vice. Boo, 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 boom, 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 boo. I played that in high school marching band. Yeah, again, this is all fantastic, but it's like we spent 40 seconds getting to the pocket. We sit on the pocket for about 15 seconds, and then we immediately abandon it again. And then now we're settled in. But I think we've lost the thread that this right here, this section, this is the money. This is the money shot. This is what's going to really sit underneath dialogue and all of that. Again, we can have the starts and stops. We can have the different layers, but I think we need to spend more time just sitting in the pocket. Now, I will say the mix is really darn loud. Really, really loud. The cool thing is that we're not flat topping, which is what I call it when you crush into the limiter and it's just mashing and it looks like a toothpaste. No, we still have plenty of transient. So if I was an editor, I could go, okay, I can move things around and I can edit appropriately. But it's just really, really loud. We're getting into 9s, -9 luffs, -8s. So I think we have to be careful. If this were my cue, I would probably put this whole section kind of earlier and might even replace this early bit. In fact, I don't know if you need all 2 minutes and 20 seconds of it. You might even be able to cut out this opening section and start right there. Or cut it in half. Do half of this, and then right. So the point is that we're getting to the moneymaker earlier, and we're going to spend a little bit more time on that. So my recommendation would be to take this section once we hit into the pocket where we just sit on it for one phrase. I guess it would be 2 phrases, 8 bars. I would take these 16 bars and the next 16 bar, and I would swap those to where we're really going after this. 2, 3, 4. That was let me try this again. Yep. And then keep going. Then go into this little section, this little interlude, which if you move these up earlier, and let's see. I'm going to see if I can't pull this off. Let's see. Let's go up to here. All right. So that's this section. We're going to move all of this business down. Now let's see what we got. Nah, that was terrible edit, but I think we can make it work. Let's slide that down. Put that there. Yep. All right. So we just came out of here. In fact, let me find the BPM of this. All right. So I used my little app called Dr. Bitote here, and I think we're at 108. So let's set that to 108 here, and let's line some things up. All right. All right. So we're going to shift that down. We're going to put that there. Yep. So then coming out of here, so now we're around the minute mark or so, and then we're going to get to our breakdown. And then from there, then we can go back into that B section, or that initial A section. Another little kind of interlude here. Then we take it home. And so we spend more time on the front end, staying in the pocket, and then we can do the back and forth a little bit later, if that makes sense. Let me try to trim up this intro. I'm going to trim out 4 bars here. Yeah. See, I'm just like, why did we leave that? Now we're 22 seconds in, and now we're going to camp out on that pocket for a while. Now, other than being too loud, I think this mix is working really well. Stay right here. Clap. I would add claps. Clap every other 4, 2, 3, 4. Every beat 4, 2, 3, 1. All right. A little breakdown, energy. And now that I shaved those 8 bars off, we're closer to the minute mark. And now, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, spending more time on the pocket. And now when we leave the pocket here in another 4.5 bars, it's not like, oh man, I missed that. Why did we leave? We just got there. Now this feels almost like an interlude to set up the outro. Again, because we spent much more time in the pocket, then the departures feel welcome and not like they're interrupting where we should be. Yeah, I think that form is really working for me. Yep. Corey, thank you so much for sending that along. That was fresh air. And I don't know, maybe that's still available. And if it is, then let Corey know. He's a member of the community, and I am sure he would love to hear from you. Hey, if you found that helpful and you'd like to get your own cue reviewed right here on the podcast, you can submit them over in our weekly feedback threads over at 52 Cues. It's a great way to get insights from fellow composers, and you never know, I might just feature your your cue on a future podcast episode. But if you're looking for something a little bit more in-depth, I also offer 15-minute video reviews where I go through your cue, talk about what's working, and suggest ways to make it stronger. And if you want to take that even further, then you can join us over for our family subscribers, because I do this on the regular. We have twice a week, we have feedback sessions where we all get into a Zoom room, we listen to each other's cues and provide thoughts. So if you'd like to do that, you can subscribe as a family subscriber, or you can go to 52cues.com/feedback. So that's going to do it for me this week. You definitely want to tune in next week, because I'm going to be joined by longtime 52 Cues family member, drummer, and Full Sail alum, Michael Reschke, who, along with his wife, Yuka, have been through the highs and lows of the sync business. And we're going to chat about their path to production music, how they've kept their chin up when the grind has really been wearing them down, and how they've combined their superpowers to start landing placement. So that is next week, and you don't want to miss it. But you know what? Until then, thank you. Thank you for spending part of your day here with me. I know that there are a ton of options out there on YouTube or in the podcast space. So the fact that you spent some time with me today really does mean a lot. And if you did get value for today's episode, the best way you can pay it forward is liking, subscribing, and doing all of those things. It helps other composers find the channel and helps me out. So I hope you've had a great week, and I know, friends, that you're going to have an amazing week. How do I know that? Because I trust and believe that the universe has amazing plans just for you. Until next time, peace. The 52 Cues podcast is copyright 2025 818 Studios, all rights reserved. The music played on the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used with permission and for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the community, submitting your cue for review, or becoming a member subscriber of 52 Cues, head over to 52cues.com.